All right, good evening, good evening. Thanks for joining. We'll start in a couple of moments. As you're joining, if you could just let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me, that'd be awesome. Thank you. All right, we'll be starting in maybe one more minute. Let's everyone file in. All right, thank you so much. Thanks for joining our webinar this evening. My name is Ayo Oseni, and I will be your personal college admission strategist for the next hour while I do this presentation. So please feel free to use the chat to send any questions that you have. I will try as much as possible to respond to those questions. Tonight's webinar is titled Senior Year, What You Need to Do and When. We decided to have this webinar before school ended for our rising seniors, particularly because we want to make sure they know what to do before before they go into their summer session. And so this webinar is, again, specifically for rising seniors, current 11th graders. However, if you have a child that's a little bit younger, this information will definitely be important to you as well because you'll be able to use it when time comes. Some of the details might change just a little bit, maybe timelines or what have you, but for the most part, the information I will be sharing tonight, I think will be of value to you. And so just a little bit about U.S. College Experts. We were founded in 2012 with the sole purpose of educating and inspiring and preparing students for the whole college admissions process. Myself, I'm a first-gen student. I come from a immigrant family, African immigrant family. I was the first of my siblings. I'm the oldest. I was the first to go through the whole college admissions process. I was the first of many of my mom's friends to go through the process. So a lot of them came to my mom and would ask her questions. How did I do it? And she would just kind of delegate it to me or kind of refer them to me to kind of share my experience and how I did it. So really, I've been doing this probably for, I mean, as long as I can remember, at least 20 years now. Business that was established in 2012. So I started working with myself. I was my first client. And then eventually I started working with my cousins, family, friends, and then we started the business. So we take pride in working with the students that we do because for me, it's not just about getting them into college, it's about preparing them for life. And so as they work with us, we try as much as possible to help them build those character and those skill sets that will help them be successful in college and then as they go into their careers. And so what we do is we do college admissions coaching, we do college application assistance, guidance in that space, college list development. We help with essays, we help with activities lists and resumes. If you do going for an interview, we help with interview prep. We also help with financial aid and financial aid applications, college tours, trip prep planning, academic and extracurricular planning as well. And we also offer college readiness workshops for organizations. So no matter where you find yourself, if you have a student or know of a student, we can definitely support you in this process. And so, like I said, we've been doing this for a long time, over 15 years of experience. 98% of our students that work with us are admitted to at least one of their top 3 schools. And over the years, we've been able to help students earn over $20 million in scholarship and financial aid. And that's through our dedicated one-on-one coaching that we provide. So we provide application strategies, help them with the college list selections, financial aid, and so forth. And so we have a proven track record in both the Ivy Leagues, top research universities, HBCUs, public universities. We take pride in not just getting our students into these top schools, but really the schools that's going to be the best fit for them and where they find themselves. And we have expert guidance, obviously, because with first generation and immigrant students, both here in the U.S. and then also students coming as international students from abroad. And so just a catalog of some of the schools that our students have been admitted into. We have, several schools, large public universities, Ivies, and so forth, that we're really excited to see where our students go to. But like I said, ultimately is we are more excited to make sure that that school is the best fit for them. So in today's presentation, the webinar will be recorded. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat option. I'm going to be paying attention to the Q&A more than anything. So send those questions to the Q&A, and at the end of the presentation, I will go ahead and take time to answer questions. But as the questions come in or as I'm speaking and they come to your mind, please feel free to go ahead and just drop them in there. Okay, and so like I said, I'm going to be your college admission strategist or coach for the next 1 hour. And so if you do want to get in touch with me, just go ahead and take a screenshot of this screen. Or you can scan a QR code so that you can book a 20-minute strategy session with me. I really want to make sure that the people that I have the capacity to reach, I'm able to share as much information that I can, whether it's through our paid services or the 20 minutes that we offer anyone that is interested in just kind of knowing more about the process. And I'll tell you, I've received even comments and feedback from even our 20-minute sessions, even from people that decide not to work with us, that the tips and the advice that we provide them at the end of the day has been useful for them. Obviously, we want to definitely work more one-on-one with the students so we can definitely guarantee and guide you one-on-one through that process. And so today's webinar is intended to be a general guidance and insight into the financial aid and scholarship and the college admissions process. The information shared should be considered educational and not a substitute for personalized advice from someone like myself or your school counselor or a college admissions representative. And so I encourage you to please consult with a trusted advisor before making any decisions on anything you hear today. And let's go ahead and get started with our senior year, what you need to do and when. So what we'll cover in today's webinar is what goes into the application. I'll be spending a little bit of time there. The different application platforms that you can use to apply to the different universities, the different types of applications that are there, the different types of colleges that you might want to consider, test optional or your testing options, really, scholarships and financial aid, college, and then a college application timeline is what we'll get into. And so I want you to kind of really think about this. And if you sat through my presentations in the past, you probably already know the answer to this question. What's so significant about today? Today is May 28th. You guys are all here in this presentation, which is awesome. But if you want to go ahead and just dump it in the chat or put in the chat, why do you think today is so significant? So I'll just take a minute or so to see if any responses come through. Yes, yes. It's basically for rising seniors. November 1st is the first, well, let me say the first major deadlines. There might be deadlines earlier than this, so you might have less time. But as of today, any rising senior has 157 days, actually less than that after in a couple of hours, 157 days before the November 1st deadline. And so every single day leading up to November 1st is very critical in making sure that your application is going to be the strongest it can be. And tonight I'm going to share some details about that. Okay, so a few things that come to mind when people start talking to me about their concerns with the college admissions process. They're, majorly concerned about, whether a school is test optional truly, or should they submit test scores. Some families are not sure how they're going to fund their students' education. Some students are concerned about student loan debt. And so many things come through the minds of the people who are going through this process. And so I hope that today we'll be able to kind of help you manage that information. And so before I really get into the meats and potatoes of our presentation, I just want to kind of throw some information out there so that you can have an awareness before you even start this process. So many of my clients are in Maryland or in the surrounding area. And so University of Maryland is one of the universities that many of them have selected to attend, or are wanting to attend, I should say. And with that, I want to share the stats. So average GPA for University of Maryland, this is from admitted students, 4.47. So this is weighted. So 4.47. Acceptance rate, 44%, almost 45%. Let's just round it out. Now, the SAT, a lot of families and even parents who have been in this area for a while or who are alumni of University of Maryland are actually very surprised when I share these details with them, because they didn't realize or don't realize as of now how competitive University of Maryland is. University of Maryland has done a fantastic job of building their profile and moving into being a top research university with strong majors in the STEM and business. So middle 50% of students that are submitting their SAT scores are running in the range of 1410 to 1520. Okay. So just take a minute. Where are you right now if University of Maryland is on your list, or even a school that has a similar profile? So maybe there might be some work that you need to start doing, or maybe you're right on track. Middle 50% for ACT is 32 to 35 points out of 3,600. I have some students who are also interested in NYU or New York University. Average GPA theirs is unweighted at 3.7. However, their acceptance rate is a far lower at 13%, and middle 50% of SAT scores that do submit is in the range of 1470 to 1570 out of 1,600 points. And then the ACT is 33 to 35 out of 36. And so NYU is a little bit different, where they have a test flexible policy. So you have the option of submitting test scores, and then not just the SAT or ACT. It could be another standardized test. They do list it on their website what they do take. But I just thought I'd point that out to you. So preparing for the college admissions process, what goes into your application? So major things that go into your application, and I'm going to kind of make sure that you understand like every single part of this process and how the admissions officers like relate to you, not relate to you, like review your application in a holistic way. So what they're going to look at first and foremost, what is the most important piece of information that your school is going to get from you? It's going to be your transcript. The university wants to know what your rigor has been. They want to know what your GPA has been. They're going to want to know what grades you have gotten in different classes. So your transcript is going to be the major factor as to whether or not you're going to be admitted at some of these universities. It's not going to guarantee, if you have straight A's, it doesn't guarantee you admissions, but it will put you from the pile that they toss to the pile that they consider. So transcripts, very, very important, and you need to definitely work with your college admissions officer at your school or college counselor at your school, just to make sure that you understand how they calculate your GPAs, how and when they're going to be sending off your transcripts to the university. And I'm going to go kind of to clockwise. So The next thing that goes into your application, and this is not for every student, and it may just be depend on the university that you're applying to. Some universities would like to see sample work, and it might be sample work of your research, your actual writing in your English class, a graded paper. Just really depends on what they're asking you for. They may ask you for a portfolio. So if you are doing a major where you're maybe fine arts or architecture, that's the major that you're thinking about doing, they may want to see your portfolio and require that to be part of your application. And also some schools require auditions for maybe if you're doing maybe music or something along those lines, they may, or acting, they may require that you do an audition. So you need to make sure you understand what goes into the application. Where you would get this information is on the university's website under admissions, undergraduate admissions. Most universities are very clear as to what they're looking for in the application. So make sure you check out the university's website on time. And this is something that you need to be looking at, I would say, really this summer at the absolute latest to make sure that if there's anything that you need to work on or anything you need to prepare for, you are ready as you're going into your senior year. Some universities also require or give you the option to do interviews, or they have other demonstrated interests. So the demonstrated interest is just your ability to let the university know that you're interested in coming to their university. So how do you demonstrate interest? It could be you attending an admission session in person or online. If the university comes to your town. So maybe they're a university that's maybe on the West Coast and they end up on the East Coast and it's in your city, you have an opportunity to attend. You can also demonstrate interest like that. Now, not every university tracks demonstrated interest. However, if it's being considered, you want to make sure that you know that ahead of time so that you can use the next several months to do that. Where you can find out if a school has demonstrated tracks demonstrated interest is the common data set, and is in section C, I believe. So you need to just Google the name of the school, common data set. It's a big report that just kind of provides information about the university, who's attending, where the professors and the degree programs that they offer. But there's a special section just for admissions, and I believe that's section C. So check that out, and you'll be able to see those details there. And also what other information that they consider highly or not so much. You can see that in the common data set. Also, going into your application may be major specific or honors program applications. So some universities, it's just the regular application that you use to apply, and that's it. But if there's a special program, let's say I'm going to use University of Maryland, Baltimore County, or Howard University, where they have a STEM program. At UMBC, it's the Meyerhoff. At Howard University is the Karsh. Is it still Karsh? Yeah, it's Karsh program, Karsh STEM Scholars Program. So those programs require you to submit your regular admissions application. In addition, if you are interested in participating or being considered for those special programs, you need to also submit another application. So don't think that, oh, I submitted my application, I'm done. That may not necessarily be the case. It might require an additional essay. And also those applications or for those special programs could be embedded into the admissions application, or it could be a separate application. So you also, again, want to find out early rather than later as to when those deadlines are and how you would apply to those special programs if you become interested in them. And then the essays are a major concern for many of the students I come across, even if they're great writers or weak writers or just average writers. Many students are very concerned because they don't really know what the university is looking for. A lot of times what I find is that a lot of students that I work with, they can analyze a body of work. They read Shakespeare and all these other authors in English class, and then they have to do book reports or look at a particular character and analyze that character. But when it comes to them and analyzing themselves, they just don't know where to start because they've never really done that before. They've never looked at themselves. They never evaluated a personal situation that they've gone through. They're just kind of pushing through life most times. And sometimes this essay, or specifically your personal essay, it requires you to do a lot of reflection about an experience that you've gone through, how you've overcome the challenge, what you learned from that challenge, what you hope to do in the future. So the essay is not something that you can, even if you're a great writer, it's not something that you can run through. Even some of my stronger writers, they tend actually to be the ones that have the most trouble with the essays because they're so used to writing in a certain way, especially if there's someone that's very, whimsical and has a lot of imagery in their writing. It's only so much you can do, especially in the personal essay, which you have a max of 650 words to number one, grab the attention of the reader, the admissions officer, or the admissions representative, and then share whatever details you need to share so that they can get a better understanding of you and who you are. The essay, and the reason why I say, please don't run through the essay, take it seriously, is because when you look at all these other things that I'm going to talk about, the essay is the only item in your application that has your voice, that gives a glimpse to your heart, your mind, or gives the admissions officer a glimpse into your heart and your mind and how you think and how you see the world and your perspective. So you really want to take time to make sure that you do write that well. And just talking about essays, we're hoping to, well, not hoping, we're planning on doing a webinar where I will go ahead and review live essays online and give feedback. And so if you are interested in that, you are already part of our mailing list at this point because you registered for the webinar, so you'll get that information when we do select those dates. And so the next thing is the activities resume or activities list. That's a major thing that goes into the application. I think sometimes students underestimate the power of the activities list because number one, or the resume, because they don't really know what they should put in there. And maybe they're putting things that may not benefit their application as far as having an application theme. So when you're working on your application, you want to make sure that every little piece of information that's being submitted connects all the dots together. So when you're now looking at the activities list that you need to complete, let's say in the Common App, you have 10 activities that you can submit. You want to make sure that those 10 activities that you submit in the Common App are the activities that, number one, you spent the most time doing, you're the most passionate about, you have the most impact as well, or maybe they tie directly to your major. So a lot of times if a student I have some students that are so heavily involved, they have so many things that selecting 10 activities is way too much of a stressor for them because they don't know what 10 to select. And that's where I kind of start with them. It's like, let's see, where did you have the most impact? Where did you have the leadership experience? Also, when it comes to the activities list as well as the resume, some students are like, oh, I didn't have I never had an opportunity to have a leadership position because I wasn't selected by my peers for the position when they voted. I don't want that to discourage you at all, because if you're still a part of that organization, you will you need to look for or look back. At this point, you should be looking back, unless you're going to be doing something in the fall or this summer. You want to look for an opportunity where you did actually lead. You may not have had a title, but you did lead maybe a project or an initiative and capture that information. What was your impact in that space as well? And then give yourself a title. Even if you're an active member, you can say active member project manager over this initiative. Whatever it is that you did, you want to make sure that you include those details there and highlight them. And in your activities list and your resume, you want to quantify things as well. You don't want to just say, oh, for instance, I'm trying to think of something. Okay, so let's say you're an NHS, a National Honor Society, and you had an opportunity to tutor students. You don't want to just say, oh, I tutor students. You want to say, I tutored 10 students in math and helped students increase their score by an average of 50 or 80%, or whatever the increase was. That's more quantifiable. That jumps out on the page. That shows us your impact. So you want to use words to really enhance your application and your activities. Now, going to your recommendation letter, that's the next thing that I'll touch on. The recommendation letter is a great opportunity to have someone else who has had an opportunity to work with you, see you grow, see how you learned, see how you engage with others, to write something about you. Typically, it's going to be your teacher that's going to write your recommendation letter. So right now, as a senior, if you're in school still, I would say use the next day or so to think about what teacher will write you would like to ask to write your recommendation letter. Ideally, where I start with my advice with this, again, this is general advice. Maybe if I talk to you one-on-one, I might provide you with different advice, but generally, what I recommend students to do is at least have one teacher that teaches them in a core subject, or teaches a subject that is related to their major. So if you're going to be doing engineering, if your school offers engineering courses, I would recommend engineering, or maybe your physics teacher or your math teacher. If you're doing STEM, definitely you want to make sure that it's a teacher maybe in that STEM subject as well. Um, but also you want to look at the university's website to see if they have any restrictions as to who can write your recommendations. Some universities will say it can only be a teacher, it has to be at least one teacher in a core subject. Some teachers will say, some schools will say in a particular subject. So you need to understand what exactly that is. And then you also have the option, some schools you have the option of submitting one, or you don't have to submit recommendations at all. So you want to know that as you're building your school list now. And then the SAT and ACT, I guess after the essays, this is probably a part that really stresses my students the most. And I'll get more into and go more into detail about this, but this is something that you also need to consider submitting. Um, you're depending on the university, again, you have to check the university's website. They may want to see the scores directly sent to them from the College Board or ACT, or you can self-report their scores within their application portal or within your Common App or whatever application you're using. So you definitely want to make sure that you understand what that process is going to be. And so that was kind of what goes into the application. All right. And so how do you apply to the different universities? Every university is different. And unfortunately, I wish the US was a bit more standardized in this whole college admissions process, but it's not. And so with it not being as standardized, you always have options of how to submit your applications, but you want to know what the preferred application is for the university you're applying to. I would say the greater majority of students will only have to use the Common App. The Common Application has over 1,100 schools on their platform. And why I like the Common App is that you have basically a central application that can go to multiple schools. So within the Common App, you have your personal profile, you have your educational section, you have the section that talks about, your activities that you're doing. All of that is part of your central application, and then you'll now attach your specific application for the university. So let's say you're applying to University of Maryland, for instance, you'll do your Common App section. So that body or that module will now attach to your University of Maryland application, and you'll answer the University of Maryland application specific questions, and then you'll go ahead and submit the application. Overly simplified, but that's basically what it is. So I like it because you don't have to put in your name multiple times, your email address multiple times, and your GPA multiple times because you're applying on so many different apps. Everything is centralized there. One thing I do want to stress to you is as you are using the Common App, you can create your account right now as a rising senior. It's just that I want to caution you as far as working on the individual university application. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to, it's going to, they do a system refresh or a system update in July for the new school year. or for the new application cycle. So anything you put on the specific application for the university, so the University of Maryland or the Towson or the Johns Hopkins application will more than likely be deleted. However, the personal information will stay. Overly simplified, but I definitely recommend that you check the Common App out. The Coalition app is another application that you can take a look at. You can apply to over 170 schools there. But more than likely, most of those 170 are on the Common App. So unless you have to use an additional application, then you can check out the Common App. If you're applying to HBCUs, you might want to also consider using the Common Black College app. You can apply to to 54 HBCUs for $35. However, Howard, Hampton, Spelman, and Morehouse do not use that application. They're all in the Common App. So you see my preference towards the Common App. And then depending on the state that you might live in, you might have a centralized state application, or if you're interested in applying to a certain school, so like the UC systems, University of California system, and the Cal State system or California State University system, they have a state application that you can use. Texas as well has Apply Texas. So depending if those schools are not on the Common App, then you might have to use a centralized application. Or the school is not on any of these platforms, they have their own application, and you would use their application instead. All right, and so application types. So these are the four major. There's a couple others, but these are the four major ones that you might run into. Early decision is the binding application, binding, so that if you decide to apply to this university and you're admitted, the expectation is you will have to attend. There is limited reason of how you will be able to get out of that application. The main one of being able to get out of an early decision app, if you're accepted, is the financial situation. The school's financial aid package is going to be a financial burden for your parents to send you to that university. So that's the only way you can actually back out of it. But the university typically works with a family to ensure that they are able to afford the university. So, or they do a review, they do an extensive review to ensure that it doesn't end up being a financial burden. And so I'm going to the right. Early action is where I tend to recommend most of my clients apply. This is a early application, but it's non-binding, so you can apply and then get your admissions decision earlier, and then you can now start doing your research as to whether or not you want to attend that university. Sometimes you get your financial aid packages a little bit early. So typically with the early decision, let me back up, you normally would be applying early decision, the binding one, between November, basically mid-December, sometimes January. Early action is about mid-November to mid-December. And you would get your admissions decisions with the early action anywhere from December to probably like mid-February, end of February, early March. And then with early decision, by the end of December, you would have a decision. So with these two applications, I like the fact that you get your admissions decision earlier, and then you'll be able to do some research, do the negotiation with the financial aid offices if needed. And then regular decision is also there. It's also an opportunity for students who, maybe need that first semester or first quarter grades to post so that they can just kind of show the universities that they're college ready. And so that's a good option for those type of students. Or the school doesn't have an early action or early decision, they just have regular. And so that's when you would also submit regular decision application. Typically these deadlines are normally, I would say, probably about end of December, January, February. And then last one is rolling. So the difference with rolling is that the university doesn't have a hard deadline per se. They have a open deadline, and then they have a hard deadline that's way maybe in June, sometimes June, July is when that deadline comes up. And with this particular application, as they get the applications, they start rendering admissions decisions. So sometimes you could hear back from a school as early as 2 weeks. I've had students who submitted an application to a rolling decision school, and they've gotten a decision back within a couple of days. So it just kind of really depends. And so once you apply, what are your responses? You might get admitted, you might be deferred, which means that they've decided to move your application from the early round to regular. You might be waitlisted, which means that you didn't receive an acceptances, but they put you on a waiting list in hopes that maybe one of the students, some of the students that didn't, that were admitted and decided not to attend, you might be able to take a spot, unfortunately, or you might be denied. Um, and the biggest thing that I would like to just really stress to you as you're working on building your college list is that you really want to make sure that the school is a good fit for you. Sometimes when I'm working with clients, we'll have a list and they'll come back maybe like a couple weeks later. Hey, I want to add this school. Okay, why do you want to add this school? And they tell me, oh, because my friend said something, something, something. Did you research the school? Do you feel the school is going to be a good fit for you? Do they have your major? So we go through these questions to see if this school is going to be the best option for them. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. So just make sure that when you're, again, as you're building your school list, the school is going to meet your needs, your educational needs, your social needs, and what you need as just a person. So is it the class size or the student body? Some students I know, they really just want to have a school that's similar to the size of their high school. They don't want anything bigger. Anything bigger would be too much. Then I have students that want a little bit more, which would be the medium-sized schools. That's basically from 5,000 to 15,000 students. And then the large, big state public universities, like you have University of Maryland and Penn State main campus and University Park, University of Texas, Austin, where the student body is etching up towards 25, 35, 40,000 students. Um, the school type, do you want private or public? Are you looking to go to community college? Are you looking to go to a four-year university? Do you want on campus? Do you want to be online? Or do you want a more residential vibe, or do you want a school where you're going to be commuting, so you don't really care about the residential experience? So those are the things you need to really take into consideration. Also, the distance from home. How often do you want to come home? Is it easy to come home on the weekends? Is it easy to come home on the holidays? Some students who travel too far from home, they're not able to come home on the weekends, or they're not able to come home on the holidays. And sometimes they're okay with it, and sometimes they, have regrets about it, but they end up adjusting. But so you need to take all that into consideration. I have some parents are like the school needs to be within 2 hours of our house. I need to be able to drive there in case of emergency, and I totally understand that. So you need to sit down with your family and kind of discuss what your school list or possible school list looks like, and what the restrictions are as a family, so that you're not putting schools on your list and then applying and then finding out you're not able to go because as a family you decided that this is not going to work because of distance or any of these other factors. Type of housing is very important. Will you be living in the dorms, or will you be living off campus? You want to also, as you're working to understand the school and gathering information, you want to understand how many years is housing guaranteed to you as a student. Some schools, housing is never guaranteed. So you submit your application for housing, it's first come, first serve. Some schools is guaranteed for 1 year. Some schools is guaranteed for the first two. Some schools is guaranteed for the first four. So you want to understand that. And then if, let's say, housing is only guaranteed for the first year, what are you going to do after the first year? Especially if it's not a school that you're going to be commuting back and forth to. What is the housing prices, rent like in that area? Is it affordable to you or for your family? So you need to take all those things into consideration. Many of my students are very concerned about how many students or students of color that are on campus, or they're interested in going to HBCUs. So you want to also understand that if that's something that you're looking at. Student to teacher ratio is another factor that students take into consideration. Sometimes they want to sit in the back of the class in a large lecture hall. Sometimes they want to be up close and really have that opportunity to build a relationship with their professor. So you need to look at the student to teacher ratio in that case. Then we have campus location. So are you looking for rural? Are you looking for urban? Are you looking for suburban? I went to where I got my bachelor's. I got my bachelor's from the University of West Georgia. I always joke and tell people when first time I went to the school, all I saw was cows. It was basically farmland, and then the town of Carrollton just kind of pops up out of nowhere. So, and I loved it. I had no problem with it, but I know many of the students that I work with would not want to do that, especially living in the DMV area, going to somewhere so rural like that, they wouldn't like it. So just understanding like what are your preferences in the process. And then school spirit, school team. Some students want to be at a school that has a lot of rah-rah school spirit, and some students don't really care for it or don't, it doesn't matter in their decision. So you need to take all of that into consideration. So you also want to make sure they have your major. If they don't have your major, why are you applying to the school in the first place? And that happens sometimes. So make sure they have your major and make sure that what you want to do in the future, there are some support systems in place to help you reach those goals. If you want to go to medical school, for instance, what's the graduation rate, or I mean the acceptance rate of students going to medical school? Are they sharing that information? Are they hiding that information? Are they kind of like, they're not saying anything? You have to read between the lines. You need to understand those details as well. If you want to go to law school, do they have a LSAT prep program and things along those lines? So just really try to understand not only like, okay, do they have your major, but what do you want to do in the future and will they support that? You want to understand the average SAT and ACT. Are you within range? Are you outside the range as you're building your list? Is the school going to be a reach or a dream school? Or are they going to be a target? Or are they going to be a match or safety? You need to understand those details as you're picking your list. And honestly, this day and age, the schools, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago, where I would have been like, oh, that's a safety. I don't like calling them safety schools, but that's a school that I think, a certain profile can get into. That's really not the case anymore. Some of these schools that we literally, that was my back pocket for some of my students, are no longer. They're now becoming more and more competitive. So you really need to make sure that everything else in your application is super strong. Take your AP, if you're taking AP tests, do you need to submit your scores? Um, if you're doing dual enrollment, are your credits transferable? Those are some factors you want to take into consideration. Obviously, also the acceptance rate, the freshman retention rate, how many students who started out as a freshman come back. To me, anything under like 90%, 85%, I just kind of like, okay, what's happening there? And also the graduation rate is what you want to look at. So like I said, you want to always do your research on these universities, attend college fairs, talk to alumni, understand the admissions requirement, check out the school's social media, talk to current students, professionals, professors as well. And then I have a couple of websites that you can look at. I didn't add Niche. Niche is another website you could look at. Some students look at Reddit and TikTok to understand the student experience as well. So just use any resource that you connect with and you feel that is a valid source of information for you, and do that heavy lifting and understanding whether a school is going to be a good fit for you. Now to talk about test scores, talk about SAT, ACT. So when it comes to test preparation, I definitely recommend that if you're still not where you want to be with your test scores, you need to make sure that you have test prep on deck. And it's whether it's going to be self-paced where you're using Khan Academy, or you're going to be doing some group coaching, or you're going to be doing one-on-one, you need to secure that now. And so that you need to let your tutor know, or whatever company you're using or whatever system you're using, know that this is when I want to take my test, and make sure that you stick to that testing plan. So I would also encourage you to, check out ACT. They have their I think, well, they've made some changes. I haven't checked the website recently, but they used to have a test prep there, or practice test, I should say. Khan Academy is really good. I've seen students increase their scores 150, 200 points by using Khan Academy, and they were very disciplined with it. That's the key thing with Khan Academy. Check with your high school. Some high schools offer test prep as well, and hire a tutor, enroll in a program. And then you also want to review the admissions website and really come up with a testing plan, meaning that some universities have a like hard deadline as to what is the latest SAT or ACT score you could take that will get to them in time by their deadline. So for instance, I can't think of any school off the top of my head, but I'd say University of Maryland is kind of really strict. Or everything needs to be in by November 1st. So if you know you're taking that October test and you're like, there's kind of a shaky situation there that they might not get the score in time, I wouldn't recommend doing it so close. So just be mindful of the requirements for the university, and then also consider your extracurricular activities, because that might be a roadblock or cause a hindrance or stress for you in the process. And also, if you're not sure, maybe you're not a great test taker, there is test optional, but I would say the greater majority of the schools that my students are applying to right now, though they may be test optional and they have the policy on their website, I'm seeing that students who submit test scores are at an advantage, and and that same common data set says the same thing that I mentioned earlier. So you just want to really try as much as possible. If you can, submit a test score, and if you can't, you do have the test optional and test flexible policies. A great website to check out is thefairtest.org. And so paying for college. Okay, so I mean, I updated this slide a few days ago, and I was just kind of shocked by how much tuition has, I mean, just going to college has gone up. Yeah, it's crazy. So Montgomery College right now, and I mean not right now, this past school year is $9,700. Howard is 60, let's just call it 65,000. University of Maryland, Baltimore County is $32,000. How are you going to pay for this? If your parents are rich or they've set the money aside for you, great. But the greater majority of people that I know cannot afford this times four or times five or times six if you decide to change your major or take too long to graduate. So applying for scholarship and grants is one place that you need to, like, one thing you need to consider. So if it's going to be federal and state, you want to make sure that you're completing whatever application. For federal is going to be the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA, or the state financial aid programs that your particular state that you live in, they may have some financial aid. So I live in Maryland. There is the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and they are responsible for managing the financial aid programs offered by the state. So depending on whatever state, I believe every state has them. So definitely check and see if your state has one. And so understand what the process is to get those additional funds if you're eligible for it. You don't want to leave money on the table. College and universities, you're going to want to see what the merit scholarship opportunities are with them. Are you eligible for need-based scholarships or grants? You need to understand what the application process is for that individual institution. Sometimes it's going to be the CSS profile, which is a separate financial aid application that I think it's like 350 schools across the US use it. And then, or institutional scholarship applications. Some schools, when you submit your application, they automatically evaluate you for merit aid. And then some universities, you need to submit an application for them to even consider you for any scholarships. So understand what the process is. Your employer might be a place that you can get scholarships from. Make sure you talk to the human resources, and this is for students and parents. Talk to the human resources department at your job and ask, are there scholarships for dependents or are there scholarships for employees, and see what they say. And then just look at any organization that you have some type of affiliation. So professional organizations. I'm part of PMI, Project Management Institute. They have scholarships for students. And also look at scholarships for an industry that you're going into or a major that you're going into. So private and public companies have them. Anyone that you're paying a bill to, you need to look and see if they have a scholarship as well. Bank of America has them. Your local credit unions have them. So just make sure. And also your place of worship. So I'm just kind of throwing this up here right now. Some universities are very transparent when it comes to merit scholarship opportunities, and they tell you exactly what scores you need to have, SAT or ACT and GPA. So I just pulled up the one for University of Oklahoma. I'm going to jump down here. Their award of excellence, $68,000, and that's over four years, $17,000 a year. You need to have a 31 on the ACT or 1390 on the SAT and have a 3.5 GPA. And if you do, you're automatically qualified for this. So if you're applying to a school that has this, and let's say your test scores are a little bit low and you're really like trying to get them up, this might be an incentive or a motivation to get your score up for a school like this that is very visible. Some scholarship websites that many of my students use, fastweb.com. It was around when I was going to when I was in high school and graduated and going to college. With really any of these websites that you use, whether it's Niche, Check, what have you, or FinAid, you want to make sure that when you sign up, you're using an email that you kind of consider junk per se, because if you're not paying attention, you might be opting into things that you don't for marketing purposes. So just be mindful of that. Big Future, which is a part of College Board, which is also the organization that handles the SAT. They have a scholarship search database. And also JLV, College Counseling, has their own scholarship database as well. Really great resource. I really like how she kind of separates out the website based on major, gender. She has all these different parameters. So definitely take a look at that website. For our clients, we have a master database that they also have access to as well. So when it comes to the admissions prep timeline, this is what I would recommend generally. If I worked with you one-on-one, it would maybe be different. So basically from now through August, going into your senior year, so this summer, my expectation is that you finalize your school schedule. Some students haven't. They don't know what's going on with their school schedule. So work on finalizing your school schedule and then start really building and finalizing your college list. Have those conversations with your parents. Have your conversations with your parents about cost as well. How much do they have saved for you? And like, what can they afford? You need to have those conversations now, because having the conversations on the other end of this process sometimes can be painful, especially if things don't work out the way you want. So make sure you have those conversations. This is a time to do resume development. So if you have things that you need to work on to kind of either enhance your resume a little bit more or just put your resume together, this is the time to do it. You want to determine who your recommenders are going to be before the end of the school year. Have those conversations with them. You want to obtain directions from your school as to how you go about obtaining those recommendation and transcript requests. Sometimes the high schools, they have like a senior session where they talk about this information. Sometimes it's during junior year, sometimes it's early senior year. So you just want to understand what that timeline is so that you can get those details. And then there's also college tours. Make sure you are going on college tours if you can. If you can't go out of the state or go to your dream school, because it's too far, there are schools in your backyard, I'm pretty sure, that maybe are a similar vibe or similar size. So it'll give you a good understanding of what the school is like. If you can't get to these tours, there's actually this, if you go on Amazon Prime, if you have Amazon Prime, and Google and search college tours, there is a production there's a production on Prime right now where they have gone in and like done I don't want to say virtual sessions, but they've interviewed students and kind of giving you an insight into the whole campus. And so I believe it's called College Tours. So check that out. It's several schools all across the country, those that are known and unknown. And then online admission sessions, if they come for a college fair, if they come into town, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you take advantage of that. And then create and complete your Common App, Coalition app, and school specific. And I'm talking about like UCs and then the Cal States. Start working towards completing them. You may not get too far because of the rollover, depending on if you have access to it. My recommendation when it comes to your essays is by the end of the summer, at least your personal essays should be done. Minimum. If you do nothing else, with all the advice I'm giving you tonight, make sure your personal essay is done and you're happy with it. And if you have opportunity to work on supplemental essays for the individual universities that are asking you like, why this major, why do you want to come to this school, work on those as well. I would definitely advise parents to complete the net price calculator. Just Google the name of the school, net price calculator, it should come up. And this will give you an idea, and this is just an estimate, it's not a guarantee of what it might cost to send your child to a particular college or university. And then take the SAT or ACT if you need to. And also, again, review the application timeline to see what the deadline is as to the latest SAT score that you can submit or ACT. Come September of your senior year, you want to submit your recommendation request. You want to submit your transcripts. You want to retake your SAT, ACT if you need to. You want to finalize your applications. You want to submit any ready applications if you can. It's not necessary, but if you have them and you're ready to go ahead and do it. And then you want to continue to submit scholarship applications because senior year, it kind of goes like there's a peak and it just completely drops off. And it normally drops off when people start getting their bills. So you want to be ahead of the curve when you're looking for scholarships. And then also October, November, December, you want to work towards preparing and submitting all your financial aid apps. You want to submit your college applications and do interview preps and then continue to search for scholarships. So for the regular path, so this is students who are submitting their applications in probably January, February. It's basically the same items, but I've shifted everything forward. So it's going to be September, October, November of your senior year where you'll be doing everything that I mentioned in the first column. And then, I mean, the first and second top column, they kind of come together because now everything is condensed. And then December, January, February is when you would be doing the latter. Then, regardless of whether you do early action, early decision, or regular, January, February, March of your senior year, you want to make a note of all the deadlines of when you need to respond to the universities. Make sure you read your acceptance letters because sometimes there's additional details that you might overlook and you didn't go beyond the congratulations to know what your next steps are. So make sure you read your acceptance letters. Make sure you continue to apply for scholarship. Begin to compare your financial aid offers and then complete any additional college tours that you need to do. And recommendation will be January, February, March to do that. Then come May, you make the school aware of where you'd like to attend and make that final decision, sign up and pay your deposit, sign up for orientation, and then continue to submit your scholarship applications. And then June, July, and August, you're running through the checklist that the university themselves has for you to make sure that you're able to get on their campus. So that'd be submitting any final documentations that your high school needs to get to them, doing any new student orientation requirements, and again, continue to look for scholarships. So I know I ran through a lot of information in this short time, but to recap, start researching colleges now and understand the deadlines and understand what the requirements are for the applications. Begin reviewing the application requirement, like I said, determine your testing plan, review financial aid options, and always apply and be searching for scholarships. So after this session that I've kind of ran through, are you ready to apply? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And if you're not, you need to definitely reach out to us. So what's next? What can you expect from us? So in the next couple of days, you should expect an email sharing the link to this recording. Feel free to share the link, that same link with your friends and family that you think this session might have been helpful for. You're also going to receive an email. We'd like to hear from you, like, was this session helpful or not? What would you like for us to add? What information, what other webinars would you like for us to do? We'd love to hear from you. And so we have support for 9th through 11th graders. We have our scholars mentoring programs where we provide personalized coaching as they're going through high school. Then we do our college application support. That's where a majority of our clients come in. And then no matter where you find yourself in this process, we have several a la carte options. And so more webinars to come. Our next webinar that's coming up is stand out early. If you have younger students or younger siblings, stand out early. 8 smart moves for college-bound students in grades 8 through 11. And so we're going to kind of be going back a little bit further from where you guys are right now to share tips that they need to be prepared for as they're going through high school. And so if you have any questions today, feel free to book a 20-minute strategy session or send us an email. All our details were included in the invite for the webinar. So let me see what else I have in here. All right. Yeah. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them to me. If you have questions, you can leave them in the chat. Okay, let me see. Okay, my child is starting 11th grade this coming year. When should we start applying to colleges? So your child will be applying to colleges. This is 25. So 26, they'll probably 26 August or August. 2026 August is when the application cycle would open for them. So that's when they would start applying. But they should start looking now. Uh, Another question is, what was the name of the website with the scholarship list you mentioned earlier? I'll go back to that. Okay, here it is. JLV College Counseling. Let me, actually, I can probably put it in the chat for you. Maybe that would make it easier. I have it like, because I look at it all the time. So there you go. Yeah, that's to everyone. So everyone can actually grab that. And I'm going to also put in the chat my email in case you want to send me a private message. Make it easier. If you're ready to book your free strategy session, you can book it here. And make sure that's it. Oh no. All right. Another question came in. Do you have any good extracurriculars recommendation for a rising junior looking to go into medicine? What would really make a student stand out? I say right now, what I'm seeing is students doing research. Um, that's what's really standing out for the most part that I'm seeing. Um, And then anything that's kind of where you're showing initiative. So like maybe you're interested in medicine. Are you volunteering in a hospital? Are you doing any jobs shadowing as well? That would be really great to start with. You could do, mission trips, or you could be, I had a student that was involved with his local hospital when they did community fairs. So he would shadow the nurses or medical professionals there as well. But feel free to check us out or set up a strategy session. We can kind of go through what might be available to you, the options. Yeah. My son is going into 12th grade this year. May you please remind him when the financial aid and college application process starts for him. So financial aid, and I should have mentioned that, I'm sorry. And I just realized no one told me that I wasn't sharing my screen. Oh, oh my goodness. I was talking to no one. I asked and they said it was okay. It is well. I guess I'll have to do this over again. All right. So, okay, so let me go back. My son is going into 12th grade this year. Okay, so financial aid, if nothing weird happens this year, last year was kind of weird, but typically the FAFSA opens on October 1st. So you'll have the opportunity to go in and work on the FAFSA at that point. And then as far as scholarships are concerned, you need to be looking for them now, looking and applying for them now. Second question is, what would you recommend for a student who doesn't know what he'd want to major in at all? So sometimes I have a student that there's like nothing really nothing really excites them. If that's the case, sometimes it might just be going undecided. I don't always like that. But sometimes that's what you have to do so that, and depending on the school, you want to understand the schools and how they treat undecided majors. So some schools, they really do a good job with having like really an exploration year where they're introducing students to different subjects and different majors, and there is a strong coaching culture in that. And then some schools is just really, you just kind of take classes until the end of your first or second year, you have to declare something. So you want to be mindful of that. I would say definitely at this point, if there's something that he's particularly drawn to, you might want to just kind of go down that route just a little and see, if anything flies with him in that space. So I've have a student that, was like, I only actually use myself for actually, because I was kind of undecided when I went to college. I just picked a major that I thought would work and I would make money from, and I changed my major multiple times. But I think if I had some job shadowing experience, or if I talk to other professionals in just any areas that I might be interested in, that might have helped. Sometimes the student, what class do they really do well in high school? That might be maybe a key to maybe what the secret is as to what the student might be interested in. Those are kind of some of my, at least my initial recommendations. But again, reach out to us and we will be able to provide you some details as to what else you might do. And also maybe personality assessments. There's career and personality assessments out there. You might want to try those. Maybe that will kind of give you some insight as well. Alrighty. I believe I answered the questions so far. Let me see if there's any other question. Oh, okay. How much do our services cost? It really it ranges. Depends on what grade the students it is. It depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for more comprehensive, it really ranges anywhere from 179, which is our hourly, and then kind of upwards to $2,000, $3,000 and on. So it just kind of, again, depends on what you're looking for. But reach out to us at the book a strategy session. Our website, if you're going on our website's out of date. We've revamped a lot. We just haven't had the web developer put the information on the website yet. But reaching out to us, even to me by WhatsApp, I can send you our brochure, or by email. So let me also put my number in the chat. All right. I can't believe, let me actually share my screen now. So that in case, at least for the webinar, that with the next webinar we have coming up, you can see those details. Um, okay. Actually, this is the scholarship website that I mentioned earlier, if you want to take a screenshot of all of them. Mm. Okay, Mrs. Adebisi, I'm gonna allow you to talk. You raised your hand if you want to ask your question out loud. And
Oh, that must have been an accident. I
okay. All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. And then I'm going to also share, and you guys will get the slides. And again, I'm probably going to do the I have to do the webinar over again. So you'll see the slides then in the new presentation. Um, goodness. What do I want to share again? Oh, I wanted to share the webinar, our upcoming webinar for rising 9th to 11th graders. Okay. So go ahead and take a screenshot of that. Like I said, you guys have, you'll get information about that. Since you've gotten information about this, you'll get information about that upcoming webinar. All right, so I hope I've answered everyone's questions. Like I said, my details are in the chat. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you might have. Take advantage of the 20-minute call, take advantage of our webinar. We do also have a blog as well. I don't know that I have the details for the blog right now, actually. No, I don't. But we'll send a link to the blog for you, and you can take a look at that. And I hope everyone has a great evening. God bless you. Have an amazing night. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.